Greetings, everyone, from sunny Orlando, Florida. On a bit of a vacation here, but the work always needs to be done, so I hope everybody's having a great week. And this week, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite areas of both tourism and hospitality management, but also resort management, and that is sports tourism and its impact on a resort and the surrounding areas where the events are taking place. So, just a quick housekeeping note, coming at you live from my hotel room at Spring Hill Suites at Flamingo Crossing. Side note, if anybody's ever interested in visiting Orlando or the Walt Disney World area and you want to stay just off property at an extreme value, sometimes under $100 a night, there are two Marriotts located at a place called Flamingo Crossing. Right across the street, you got a Target, you got a Starbucks, you got all the essentials, and you're basically, if I walked outside and threw a football on Disney property. So this is not a shameless plug or anything like that. I'm not getting any kickbacks, but if you ever visit the Central Florida area and are interested in staying just off Disney properties, but still getting that Disney feel, I recommend you check it out. Sound like an old guy. This used to be all undeveloped orange groves when I lived here. So on one hand, it's good to see the development. On the other hand, a lot of development can be a bad thing. But anyway, back to the topic at hand, which is sports tourism. As I mentioned on the front, this is, and in the lecture notes in the chapter, this is an area that's near and dear to my heart. I have a lot of experience about some of the places we're going to talk about on this week's lecture, one of them being the ESPN Wide World of Sports Complex and Disney's All-Star Resorts, which are prime examples of the subject matter that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about some other examples as well. But first, we need to define what is sports tourism. Sports tourism is broadly defined as, traveling sports teams, major sporting events. It could be a Super Bowl, it could be the Olympics, it could be the NCAA tournament, it could be a WrestleMania, or it could be just a high school traveling sports tournament where kids and families are traveling around, need a place to stay, maybe visiting a complex out of state or far in state, and need places to stay. And these have big impacts on resorts and how they manage, both from a pricing standpoint, an operational standpoint. It's going to have an impact on staffing, and we will go into examples of all that. The second thing, I just listed some examples, but I want you to think big sporting events are something we're going to concentrate on, but don't forget about the smaller sporting events too. I keep mentioning, traveling baseball or football teams, cheer, dance competitions. All of those things are sports and require people to travel around the country, or even in some cases pre-pandemic around the world, and families and participants need a place to stay. And so that can be considered sports tourism. I like to focus on the big stuff though, like I mentioned, World Series, Super Bowls, NCAA tournament, WrestleMania, NASCAR. One of the examples was given in chapter 1 when we looked at Spa, Belgium. They have a very big car race in Spa, Belgium every year, which brings an enormous economic impact to the area. So we want to think about these mega huge sporting events that can bring tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, or even in the case of the Olympics or World Cup, millions of people to an area, and all of those people need places to stay. When I studied at the Rosen College of Hospitality a couple years, now over a decade ago, we had some very good examples, some really good data to take a look at when we were students. One of those was a WrestleMania held here in Orlando, and another was an NBA All-Star game. I believe it was 2010, 2011. I may be wrong on that. I'll go back and fact check that. But these were two mega sporting events that came to the area, and when it was all said and done, generated hundreds of millions of dollars in hotel rooms, food and beverage, people coming into the area spending extra money. So these mega sporting events and sports tourism can have a huge economic impact on the areas that the events are being held, and for the resorts and hotels that are housing all of these folks. So we want to take a look at a resort. Let's say they have a mega sporting event or even a travel sporting tournament. This is going to be heavily involved with the director of sales, if there is a director of sales, and the general manager or the sales teams. A lot of examples of when we're selling these rooms, they're going to sell them as a package or a block. A sports team may come in and rent out an entire floor of a resort or need a certain amount of rooms at a fixed price. I'm reminded of some of the football teams during what I call preseason camp, spring training for some of the baseball teams. They'll just come in and say, give me 2 floors of rooms or 3 floors of rooms or an entire wing of a resort or hotel. And that's pretty much always going to be at a fixed price in a contracted way. So the director of sales or the sales teams of the resort is going to be heavily involved with that, along with the senior team and even the general manager in a lot of cases. On a smaller scale, if you have a traveling baseball team or a cheer team or a dance team or anything like that, certain organizations that are having the event, the sporting event, may partner with local hotels and resorts to get a block of rooms, much similar to weddings. I see a lot of correlation in resort management with the sales teams between weddings and sporting events to say, hey, give us 20 rooms or 25 rooms at this fixed price, and we will be more than happy to book off those rooms. There's a lot of negotiation there. Even though it brings a lot of sales to resorts, this can be a double-edged sword. A lot of sports teams want the rooms at a discounted rate. So if you have something else going on, I can mention Gaylord is famously known for kind of holding their own and saying, nope, the price of our price is is where we're going to stand firm. We believe in our product, and you're going to pay a premium. Whereas a lot of other resorts, especially now, pre and post pandemic, they want as much business as possible, have a little bit more flexibility with their pricing strategy. But the main takeaway I want you to understand from a resort sales strategy is that there's going to be some negotiation, and a lot of time there's going to be a contracted rate with these mega huge sporting events. On the other side, I mentioned a double-edged sword. Fans is a whole different story. I mentioned a couple of examples of mega sporting events when I was studying at the Rosen College of Hospitality. A couple of years ago in Cleveland, we were blessed with both an NBA Finals, a couple of NBA Finals, a couple of years in a row, and a World Series where the then Cleveland Indians were facing the Chicago Cubs. And the cheapest hotel room, hotel, resort, anything you could find was $500 a night, and that was the bare minimum. So on the flip side, yes, resorts may lose some money with a contracted rate with the athletes participating in whatever event is going on, but on the fan side, that is when a resort may take full advantage of yield management and maximum pricing, and trust me, they do. If you've ever seen a mega sporting event going on in your town, or a football game, or anything like that, you can notice that the price of the rooms go up. I challenge you, the next time a big city is hosting an event in February, Cleveland's actually going to be hosting the NBA All-Star Game. I may post some advertised room rates just to show how they double, quadruple, triple in price because a mega sporting event is going on. So keep your sales strategy in mind, and when all of you who graduate and go on to run a resort or partner with a resort, if you're in another area of the hospitality field, it's going to be very important that you understand the sales strategy when there is a mega event going on. One of the other areas I want to talk about is the impact of operations. Later on, after this lecture, I've posted a couple of video links and some articles that I really want you to deep dive and to read and watch carefully. As I mentioned at the top of the lecture, I have worked numerous shifts, numerous events, spent a lot of time at Disney's ESPN Wide World of Sports. When it opened, it was a one-of-a-kind sports complex. Since then, that model has been copied or borrowed from around the country and around the world, but this is one of the first examples of a mega sports complex to house all different kinds of sporting events, tournaments, every field and facility that you can think of, from a Major League Baseball stadium where the Atlanta Braves had spring training, to gymnastics, dance, basketball, and every sport in between. So I highly encourage you to take a look at that. And Disney will never admit this, but they built The All-Star Resorts, and specifically the All-Star Sports Resort, specifically for traveling athletes and families of traveling athletes, to capture them and to keep them on Disney property. It was also Disney's first attempt at a value resort, which we will talk about later in the course, but Disney had always been in the premium and moderate resort level until they opened up the All-Star Resorts, which was their first value resort. Less amenities, kind of a food court, no big restaurants or anything like that. And again, we'll go into the different resort classifications a little bit later in the course. But the reason I wanted to mention the impact on operations is when there were really big sporting events at ESPN's Wide World of Sports and Disney's All-Star Resorts, it would always have an impact on operations. Food and beverage would need to stay open later. Extra housekeeping staff would have to be on call just because you had rooms with sometimes twice the occupants than your standard room. Extra security, because a lot of these teams and fans would love to celebrate. And with that, they're on vacation, they're having a good time, but still Disney like to maintain the family environment, so extra security would be on staff, and the resort would be running at 100% capacity. There is a large difference with resort operations when you are running 70 to 80% occupancy and running at 100% sold out occupancy. That's going to require all hands on deck. Every position be filled, probably bringing in people on overtime, extra hours. And so it is very important for the administrative team and the department heads to make sure that they are fully staffed, they have enough staff on hand to take care of the members. So I really hope that you enjoy this section of the course, because it's a very interesting section. It is a section that's relatively new. It's not brand new. Sports tourism has been around for a while, but it is getting a lot more attention these days because of the popularity of sports, the popularity of traveling teams, and the impact it has on our industry. So I hope you enjoyed. I look forward to some very robust discussions in the discussion group. And as I mentioned, please make sure that you are watching the videos and deep diving the articles, because our midterm exam will be a written exam and sports tourism will be one of the questions. So I look forward to hearing what you have to say, and have a great week. Please reach out if you have any questions. Take care.